Hi, welcome to my brand new channel. I spent a lot of time on the road, believe it or not, 152,000 kilometers last year, which is somewhere close to about 96,000 miles for anybody outside of Canada. I have a lot of time alone. A lot of random crap goes through my head. And for the last few months, I've been, thinking about a few things. I need to get them out. So I started writing them down and writing notes here and there. And I didn't know where to share them. So I started a blog, put some stuff up on there, started a podcast, put some stuff up on there, and, who the hell wants to listen to me? I don't know where to advertise it. Some of it I don't want to advertise on my regular Facebook page, so I'm not going to just share it out to all my friends. So I just wanted to share some stuff that I wrote over the last few months. I don't care if you agree with me or not. I don't care if you think I'm smart or dumb or whatever the hell. Wow, I sound like a redneck right there. Ooh. Anyways, this is just stuff I had to get out of my head, and I'm hoping, if nothing else, makes somebody else think, makes somebody talk to me about it, give me some ideas. Okay, so it's basically about me. This is called How My Religion Taught Me to Hate. I know a lot of people are gonna hate that subject, but that's gonna get the attention right there. So about me, I grew up in a religious family with Anglican roots. My mother joined a small growing church group which developed into one of the largest Baptist churches on Vancouver Island. That's the west coast of Canada. We were part of this same church family from the time I was 4 years old. Now in my early 40s, my mother still attends the same group. And don't get me wrong, I'm really proud of the fact that our family was part of and still is part of this growing group that does a lot of good and outreach locally in her community. I value a lot of the relationships and advice from many members of this congregation. But during the troubles of my teenage years, members of this group reached out to me to provide guidance when I was lost, to be really supportive when I needed it, and to give advice. One of the most influential people from this church was my pastor, Mark Buchanan. He was this little guy. He more often was in board shorts and Hawaiian shirt with sandals, instead of a big stuffy suit. I loved watching him break the norms, make people uncomfortable, make them think about why they felt certain ways. He'd walk quietly to the stage, but his big booming voice would get your attention. He put feeling into his speech, and he challenged traditional ideas, and he kept you rapt to everything he said. He made you laugh, he made you cry, and he made you understand why you did certain things. He also wrote a book called Your God is Too Safe. I still have an autographed copy of the book at home, as well as a spare copy handed down from my mom. I'll be honest, I haven't actually read the whole thing, but the title alone I loved. It tickled me. Wanted me to research more and break the norms, make sure that what I thought was right for me, not just safe or familiar. So my mother always gave me ideas to make me think. She told me from a young age to make sure I knew what I believed and to know why, and that she would support me in those choices as long as I could support my argument with logic and faith. She may not have exercised as much as she would like. She made sure I went to church without fail, even when I didn't want to, and she was less than willing to explore alternate churches. But the idea and the sentiment were there, and they stuck with me throughout my life. On my own as an adult, I spent a lot of time talking to people of different faiths and asking questions about how, why, what for, history of, and more. I learned a lot about different denominations in faith, alternate religions, alternate deities, Wicca, witchcraft, natural beliefs, and a lot more. Some were absolutely fascinating to listen to. Some felt like fantasy stories that kept the attention but not the faith. And some made me so uncomfortable to the point I avoided them totally. But nothing fit, so I stuck to what was safe and familiar, so I didn't know how or why to believe anything else or where to go. But in all my research over the years, some ideas stuck and made it to my daily practice, because they meshed with what I read in my Bible and my interpretation of Jesus' love and teachings, even if I didn't see them in practice elsewhere. Because I spent so much time talking to people of all the different backgrounds, I had a lot of friends who didn't believe in the same things I did. But my biggest takeaway from them was acceptance. They didn't believe in my God or read my Bible, but they answered my questions and taught me. They didn't judge me, even if I didn't accept what they taught. We debated respectfully back and forth and taught each other whatever we could, and we had some fun. Nobody got judged, nobody got ostracized, nobody got ridiculed for what they did believe in. We made a pretty hodgepodge group. I've had Jehovah's Witnesses try to convert me. I've had coffee and visit with Mormons. I've had cards and stars and palms read by Wiccans and others. I attended a Buddhist wedding in a haunted church at the stroke of midnight on Halloween. Yeah, that happened. Went to church with United, non-denominational, Anglican, and a lot more different types of services. I saw people speak in tongues. I believed they were performing healing prayers. I even attended a country revival down by a river and marched an anti-abortion silent protest. I spent countless hours debating and researching to reinforce my debates when I got stuck, but to learn those different viewpoints. But the biggest thing was I accepted everyone of every background. I asked questions that may have sounded ignorant from not knowing. I interrupted classes and speeches. I took a lot of notes over the years. But I stayed open to new ideas and only asked from others what I'd be willing to do myself, such as, hey, we're talking about religion. You come to my church, I'll go to yours. Things like that. The biggest lesson I ever learned in life, that nobody was lesser because they believed something different or practiced in a different way or used a different word for God. I wasn't better than them. I wasn't right. I wasn't wrong. They weren't right or wrong. I condemned no one that I could learn from and hope that I could teach them some of the same. I learned a lot of things I don't want to be a part of. I learned how I didn't want to be treated or spoken to. I learned what people could blame on their religion and how awful you could be made to feel in the name of the holy. I saw some awful bigotry and hate, both in and out of churches. I made a few decisions that would shape exactly who I've become. I also learned that no matter who they prayed to or when, or how, the crazy truth of it is, almost everybody preached the same thing, the same message, just a few small differences, while they condemned everybody else who disagreed in the slightest little way. I even saw this within my own family. Just for an example, one of my nephews recently came out as transgender. So he becomes she. My sister, his mother, chose to support this in the best possible way. Go you. I asked them simple, ignorant questions like, what name do I use and when? And tried to express the parts I didn't understand and learn the rest to make her comfortable. I let this child teach me what he needed and have tried to support her as best as possible. My children followed my example and made me really proud. Come Christmas a couple years later, our religious mother is visiting from out west and expressing her opinions. She wanted to take my sister's kid to a counselor to see if he can get him fixed. Behind my sister's back and hoping that I would help. I said, hell no. I found out my older sister had heard about our mother venting about these issues, and she ripped into her with the same opinion. I do love that our family is at a stage in life where we can be blunt and rational as we discuss this. Since a couple days before Christmas, we're throwing around religious and opinion thoughts on the subject. I gotta look my mother in the face and say, to be honest, your opinion doesn't fucking matter. It's not your kid. My mom looked pretty shocked and she started to be offended, but she realized I wasn't calling her out or insulting her, and I was right. Then I also got to point out to her that at the very least, she should be proud that as a single mother, she raised 3 children from child to adulthood who could all grow into such loving and accepting people that none of us judged or condemned anyone regardless of their background, their way of life, their choices, sexual identity, anything. This is, again, a very abridged version of this whole conversation, but you get the general idea. One of the biggest wake-up moments in my life came regarding religion and people's attitudes towards it. Came from a church I attended for a couple of years. After over a year of getting to know people and following their teachings, it came that I'd be moving to another city. I mentioned to a few of the nice older folks what city I'd be going to, and I got a few recommendations on churches to look out for. One particular gentleman who always went out of his way to talk to me and the kids. I think he was an elder at the church, somebody to be respected anyways. He gave me this recommendation, to paraphrase. You should check out this church. They have this, and they'd love a new family with plenty of kids. I was a single parent of 4. And you wouldn't have to one of those fags and weird shit. Huh? I knew right then I'd never check out his recommendation. I knew that I would never return to that church. And since then, I've spent time really listening extra close to sermons and messages put out by different churches and church leaders, and looking for the nuances and lessons they teach to their youth. Everything is put forth as positive support. You can make your choices within your faith. Pro-life will support you when you choose God's way, and so many more. Look up newsletters and ads from your local churches. You'll see all these and more in a lot of different wordings. But look a little deeper. Listen to what these messages say. We'll support you in God's path, but choose to believe different and you're alone. You will go to hell for eternity. You're evil for being different. Our way is the only way and everybody else is wrong. It's so thinly veiled, but every church I've been to is secretly teaching me to hate anybody that's different and hoping I don't notice. Hate gay people because they don't follow the Bible. Hate abortionists for not supporting this fetus regardless of health or history or any other option that might be in the past. Your way is the only way. You cannot be different. You cannot think differently. We can't prove it except through vague scripture and asking you for blind faith because we said so. This is God's plan. You're evil if you disagree. Don't look different. Don't act different. Judge others. Condemn them for having an opinion. See a theme here? You can see this in all those church and religious flyers. Just go have a look. Oh, wait. Okay. Here's what I learned in Sunday school as I see it. Choose to follow and consider my opinion or don't. It's your call. The Old Testament is basically a history lesson. This is what God wants you to do and why. Here's what's good. Here's what's bad. Here's the struggle we went through to get here. Exactly the same as our kids learning about war and Holocaust and local history in school. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Learn the lessons because people already went through them and get the theory behind the fact. Then you go to the New Testament. It changed everything. We no longer had to sacrifice because Jesus did it for us. Unclean foods didn't matter because we were purified in faith. Sinful acts could be forgiven if we just asked for it. Love everybody as you wish to be loved. Look at the Good Samaritan. He helped a neighbor he should have hated because that's what he was taught. That's what everybody else did. But he chose to be a good person. He chose to help that person, whoever he was. Jesus spent time with beggars, the terminally sick, prostitutes, men who had no other ambition in life. He loved them all the same, gave them the same message regardless of their background, regardless of their future, their choices, or personal opinions. He didn't ever treat one person as less than the next. The church teaches us to hate sinfulness in their interpretation and to shun those who are different or to try and change them to our own way of thinking. I don't care what church you go to, it's going to teach you the same thing. Look at the similarities in all the religions, Catholicism, Christians of all the denominations, Jewish, Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, Seventh-day Adventist, Islamic, Buddhist, even native cultures. On a base level, the stories handed down through history are really similar, slightly changed through translation and location and retelling over time. The morals of the stories are the same. Every different denomination of Christianity has the same base teaching, the same roots. They simply split off because one group within that religion disagreed on a base idea, walked away and taught in their own way. Now, thousands of years later, we have Baptists and Pentecostals and Lutherans and Anglicans and so many more, all telling us that everybody else is wrong. So who's right? Only each of us can decide that for ourselves. Look at all the common base lessons and live your life to the best of your ability. Follow Jesus' teachings, whether you believe there's a man or a prophet or the Son of God. Love your neighbor unconditionally. Simple as that. Decide where you stand on all those little differences of opinion. It's all on you and your choice, but stop spreading hate. Make a choice and stand for it. Hate destroys everything that religions of all sorts teach. Hate turns religious people into conquerors, terrorists, feuding families, and multiple warring factions. Hate causes pain to those on the receiving end and stress to those on the giving end. There is no positive side to hate. I chose to avoid churches in general for the last few years because I couldn't handle listening to the hate and finding the worst possible bigots and liars within the walls of the churches, pretending to be good people on Sunday mornings so other people would look up to them. One day a week does not get you into the kingdom of heaven, if that's what you believe. A band I listened to said it the best way possible when I was a teenager. Even though I always remembered it, I never quite understood it, but lately it just kicked better. It's from DC Talk, What If I Stumble? The greatest single cause of atheism in the world today are those that praise him with their words and then walk out the door and deny him by their lifestyle. Stop living hate when you preach love. Practice the words that come out of your mouth and truly love your neighbor. His religion, color of skin, gender identity, relationship status should have no bearing on what kind of person they are. You don't have to like everyone. You don't have to spend time with people you don't mesh with. That's okay. But you have no right to judge those that have never done a thing to harm you. Hate the lies of the church teachings. Hate the bigotry. Love the man or woman you see in front of you. We are all fighting for the same thing, to wake up each morning and enjoy our lives in the best way we know how. Hate in any form robs of this enjoyment. You don't have to believe in God or the Bible to live a good life and be good to others. You only have to have faith in humanity and making this a good place for everyone to enjoy. As Bill and Ted said it best, be excellent to each other. And now one more quote from American History X. Hate is baggage. Life is too short to be pissed off all the time. It's just not worth it.